My dear friends, as a Muslim, what a true joy and honor it is to be here with my Jewish and Christian colleagues, with this beautiful circle of love all around me, and also to be in this lovely house of worship that, as the Quran says, prays to that one God of all of humanity. I want this morning to talk a little bit about the Quran. You know, Prophet Muhammad, from a very young age, he was, some would say, clinically depressed. He was very much in despair about the terrible savagery of his time, the recklessness, the practice of infanticide. And from time to time, even as a child, he'd go in the mountains and meditate. And as he grew older, sometimes for 40 days and nights at a time. And one very fateful evening of 610 AD or CE, as he was meditating, he experienced this extraordinary phenomena. He was in the cave, and this huge luminous light approached him. It came closer and closer, and he was absolutely petrified. And the light came even closer and said, "I am Angel Gabriel." And he proclaimed, "Iqra, Iqra." Iqra in Arabic means recite, recite. And he was shaking. He said again, "Iqra, in the name of your Creator, who made mankind from a connecting cell. Iqra." And all he could utter was, "But I am illiterate, I'm unlettered." And he ran down the mountain into the arms of his beloved wife, Khadija, who consoled him, assured him. And after consulting with a blind seer, who was a Christian, a distant relative, who said, "Send him back." And she persuaded him to go back to the mountain. But once again, this luminous light, once again, "Iqra." But this time, he felt this terrible squeezing from within, and from the depths of his soul, from his being, poured out these beautiful words, startling words of astonishing beauty, which were seared into his soul. And he ran down the mountain, told his wife and relatives. And this happened intermittently for 23 years. And the collection of all these writings, on parchments, bark of trees, on stones, is the Quran. Quran literally means recitation. It's a sonoral revelation. It's meant to be heard, not to be translated. It is the vibrations, the cadence, the rhythm of the words that perfumes a person's, a Muslim's soul and moves him or her. So, the basic spiritual message of the Quran is that, can you bring divinity into the center of your life? The Quran says, can you do this inner work? And the quotation is, so you can bring a heart turned in devotion to God. And the Quran says that God says, no reward. There's nothing we want from you, humankind, for these revelations, except that you must love your fellow beings. And the Quran appeals to different personalities. It has 3 moods, you might say. It appeals to a human being mostly through compassion. Secondly, through reason. And last of all, through tough love. And I'm so sorry that the media has picked up the last part as being the basic message or the mood of the Quran. I'm eager to tell you that jihad as holy war simply does not exist in the Quran. It exists only in the media. 72 Vestal Virgins does not exist in the Quran. And believe me, I have looked deeply. The Quran describes infidel simply as one who is ungrateful to God. Can be a Muslim or a non-Muslim. So sad that Muslims have abused the word infidel, as have non-Muslims. I want to end with some observations by this 13th century sage Rumi, who many of you have heard. You know, he never wrote, he just uttered. He'd always start his utterance by saying, I'm a slave of the Quran. I am dust on the path of Muhammad. And he gives some pieces of advice. You know, he would say, I think he would say, if you're interested in the Quran, please, don't rush out to buy a copy of the Quran. It'll overwhelm you unless you're very familiar with the 7th century events. Rumi says, the Quran is like a shy bride. The Quran is like a shy bride. Don't approach her directly. Approach her through her friends. Friends are those incredible number of mystics and sages who abound in Islam. I would say pick up a book by any Islamic sage, Rumi, Ibn Arabi, Ghazali, Hafiz. Then pick up a book which says selections of the Quran. Then study the Quran. One last thing Rumi says of the Quran, Rumi says, I have taken the marrow from the bone. I've taken the marrow from the bones and thrown the bones to the dogs. He says, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but from any holy book, absorb the spirit of the book and allow it to perfume your heart, and let the theologians quibble about this fine point and that fine point. The Quran says we're inviting all of humanity to the abode of peace. So I wish you peace. I wish you shalom. I wish you salam. Thank you.
I think actually this is a test. I've never seen Brother Jamal stand behind a pulpit to speak. And I don't think he's ever seen me do this. It's really a joy to be here.